Well, hello and welcome to I Love Energy Medicine Radio. My name is Nick Hansinger. I'm the president of Energy Mastery, and I'm here with
Sheevaun Moran, CEO and founder.
And today we're talking about conquering the impossible mindset, the quote-unquote impossible mindset. So this is a really exciting topic, and I'm really interested to let this conversation unfold with our founder here, Sheevaun Moran. Sheevaun, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty amazing. It has been an intense 30 days, but we're doing some pretty cool things. We've got some new grads from one of our core 4-day programs, and our center's coming together even more, so I'm pretty excited.
That's right. It's amazing what happens with time. That had happened a few weeks ago that we had completed that 4-day course, which was amazing, by the way. And it seems like the course itself felt like 4 lifetimes, and now since it, with all of that really good energy to drive forward and to move and to do lots of cool things, it seems like another 4 years since that happened.
So many cool things.
It's hard to keep up sometimes. But not impossible, I would say. So when we talk about the impossible mindset, I'm wondering if you might have a story about somebody who got caught in the impossible mindset to kind of set the stage for this. Does anything pop to mind for you?
So when I think of this mindset, I think of a lot of folks, because when you talk about energy, I've been doing this quite some time. If you're new, then you'll want to know that maybe I've been doing this way over 15 years. And the fascinating thing when you talk about energy, long before Wi-Fi, is it was a really fuzzy concept. And that was very impossible, supposedly, to get that message out there. However, people showed up, and people really wanted a brand new solution that was truly and totally going to work. So, I don't know, there were so many. I was doing a bunch of videos the other day for our tribe, and I was telling this story I'd forgotten about when I first started the first ever healing clinic. And I had just come away from my own health challenge and helping that woman at Base Camp Everest and turn things around. Really was, really driven to get this information in people's hands. And so we started a clinic to give people the experience. We called it a healing clinic. And this guy, I don't know how he found out about it, because, the internet wasn't what it is today. And it turns out he was homeless. He took the bus. He took the bus from Los Angeles on Skid Row down to our healing clinic. And how the heck did he do that? So he could have fallen prey to the impossible. So his stuff that he wanted to work out was he had bipolar, schizophrenic, and then he had 2 other things I don't even recall. And it was pretty severe. And I remember looking at the students going, okay, yeah, we can handle this. It's good. Yeah, let's just do our very best and see what happens. And people actually showed up more than him. He wasn't the only one who showed up for that first ever clinic. And the fascinating thing is, he came to every single one of our clinics, every single one, for 2 years straight. And we ended up having 4. And he really, he didn't have a stable income. He didn't have an easy way to know about what was happening, etc. But he really conquered that impossible. And he was really driven to make a change. Now, he's an extreme example of somebody who's driven for what he wants. Now, on the other side, there are a lot of folks I interact with who are not driven, and they kind of like their little impossible circumstance.
It's like the comfort of being stuck in a small cell or a small container.
Yeah.
Is that what's driving that, do you think?
Yeah, so I think really what I've seen driving it is the unknown is so scary, and I might have to sacrifice, give up, or possibly even go as far as, like, the mind kind of always goes to the I'm going to die. And it is, I'm not willing to do that. So I'd rather stay in this super uncomfortable, super unhealthy place, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, or financially. I'd rather do that than embark on the unknown. And then there's the other side of they embark on the unknown, and they dip their toes, and they're like, oh my God, I might get what I want. And so things expand and things get a little uncomfortable, and then it becomes too impossible to take that next step. So there are lots of facets of impossible.
Right. And so when you speak about the next step, it's like the next step to either sustain that, or it could be the next step to continue to move beyond that barrier. So they wind up either sabotaging themselves back into wherever they were before, or just really continuing to butt their head up against that glass ceiling. Am I understanding you correctly there?
Yeah, the next step for them is, it doesn't always make sense, and it isn't always fully logical to the brain. And it's going to require conversation and discomfort. And, generally people don't want to converse about what they're going to embark on because they've been told no and shot down so many times. And so they'd rather not tell anybody, which then gives them permission to not take action.
Right. Because when you're hiding out in your little cave, there's not a lot to do.
Yeah.
There's really not as much to do at all. But as soon as you start to come out and let yourself be seen, if it's for your business, as far as putting yourself out there, well, now you're responsible for not only the message that you're putting out, but also for the people that are showing up.
Yeah, and you're responsible for a deeper conversation and revealing some things about you that maybe, seem uncomfortable. And the fact of the matter is we don't have to reveal them. We just have to have a conversation as to what we really want, and have a conversation of staying in the truth of what we really want and not backing down.
Right. Well, I think if you were to ask the average person on the street if they had this, I don't know that a lot of people would necessarily go right there.
No, they can't.
So, it seems like it's kind of hanging out below the surface there. And one of the things that I notice is the distractification around like everything else seems to be louder or more urgent than actually dealing with the thing. So you mentioned, and what I thought was really interesting about the homeless gentleman who found his way into the healing clinic is he's homeless. Clearly there are financial challenges in his life, but that wasn't his urgency.
Yeah.
His urgency was his own mental health, and that was the thing that got him there. Mm-hmm. So wondering if you can just talk a little bit more about that. Like first and foremost is, well, what are some of the things that people love to distract themselves with or find their way to just stay and avoid those more, quote unquote, difficult conversations. And secondly is, finding the urgency within you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so most people generally tend to just quit whenever it seems uncertain. And the fact of the matter is that when you want something different than what you have, it requires you to do something different. Now, here's the really tricky thing. Because it's lying under the surface, and it's not like this conversation that everybody's going to have, like you said, person on the street, is
how are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you doing today? Oh, well, I just happened to have this funny little thing that I'm doing. Like, who says, like, nobody's having that conversation?
No, only me on planes and weird conversations with people. But, not everybody really wants to go that deep. I hear people talk about me, or I hear myself being talked about to from other folks, and they always say, oh, I'm a little, being around Sheevaun makes sure that I always go deep. And the reason I think I do that is because, I've just had so much loss, and people get distracted with social media People get distracted with Instagram. People get distracted with binge watching. I just found out what GOT means. Game of Thrones. I had no idea what that meant. I'm like, God, I got what? So, so you can tell I didn't distract myself with that. People distract themselves with buying things. People distract themselves with taking care of others first. People distract themselves with, mediocrity and saying, it's okay, that's all I really want, I'm good. I have this one client who we just found out their annual income, what there used to be their annual income is now their monthly income. And he and his wife were so funny. They were like, oh my God, my annual income is now my monthly income. You told me that would happen. So they had been distracting themselves with it's okay, I shouldn't ask for more, have more, or go for more. And so people distract themselves in multitudes of ways. And generally what it leads to is a health challenge, a relationship challenge, a money challenge, or a spiritual rift.
Right. That kind of spiritual crisis of not really knowing why you're here, what you're doing, feeling like you're drifting, and that nagging feeling that there must be something more, which can be really heavy.
And then you compare yourself to others when you're in that there must be
Right.
something more. Well, they seem to have it. I got to do what they do. And really the truth of the matter is why we teach and why I teach the way I teach and put the formula together the way I did is because everybody has their own unique codes that we help everyone unlock. And it's not like, oh, here is this, and you are a robot, and you are the same as the next person. And that's not true, because everybody's energy and experiences are unique.
That's right, yeah. Now, I want to circle back really quickly about a little nuance here, where people get caught in everybody else's drama or problem seems to be more urgent than what's actually going on within them that may be preventing them from really expanding into what they want. So there seems to be a conflict between those loud things. Like there's this understanding also, like especially people who've been around spirituality that, oh, well, what I give, I receive. So if I help others, I'll get help. But they seem to go maybe too far out of that. Is it a misunderstanding that's happening there? And then they wind up neglecting themselves. It seems like their heart's in the right place, but they're just not really seeing the results there. Can you shed a little light on that?
So generally what tends to happen is we feel over-responsible for somebody else and we give over all of ourselves at our own expense. And, this is not a new saying. Fortunately, it's been around a while, is put your own mask on first. And it's really, as your energy, here's this great story. Oh, my gosh. There's this one client who came from a large family. She was the oldest. Her mother had some sort of not so great mental health. But, the family was doing well enough. But effectively, though, the oldest daughter, from the time she was about 6, was responsible for all of the other kids. And she grew up and, had a good life and had gotten married and it didn't work out. And she was then doing the same thing in her coaching practice. And the fact of the matter is she wasn't getting paid what she needed to get paid, what she was delivering. Like the company she was helping was like Facebook and all of these companies. And she was getting paid like a pittance. And so as we helped her solve her energetics, clean them up, get out of the chaos, get into her true self and caring for herself, the weird, cool, amazing thing that started happening was that her mother's medication got less and less and less until she needed it not at all. And it was she didn't change a thing. The mother changed nothing. Wow. And it was all because of the work we were doing with the eldest daughter.
Wow. Wow, it's really incredible to think, like how exciting to think that you can have that much influence just by cleaning yourself up.
Yeah.
Just by cleaning up your own energetics and straightening out your own life, that you can impact people in ways that you would have never imagined. And I think that's a little bit of a scary prospect for some people, or maybe that's part of the impossible mindset
Or maybe they
of,
just
well,
don't
no,
know.
yeah. You know, that reminds me also, I had a client myself on Monday. I was working with her. She's responsible for a large division of a hospital, and it's been she's been there only for a few months. For many years before that, it was a very dysfunctional environment in many ways, and so when she contacted me, she said she felt like she was constantly dealing with people's trauma. And the first thing I said was, well, you have. Like, that's not a made up thing. These are folks who have been doing this. And that when we started to dive below the surface and below the surface, what we found was that she's feeling responsible for everybody. That feeling of responsibility was present everywhere for the hospital, and ultimately in a subconscious way, or a very sneaky kind of way, she had found that her alone was feeling successful or responsible for the success of the hospital or the failure of the hospital, and what that would mean for everybody, which is interesting that the mind would take that on and make that hers. You know, one person in an organization that size, it does take a team, although one person can have a huge impact as well. So it was really interesting to watch the weight lift from her and send her back into the organization to utilize that, and with a lot more energy and a lot more clarity about what she can do, and how she can really continue to work on herself.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it brings me to, I think, an interesting part of this conversation, which is, if it's really that hidden away, how are you supposed to get to it yourself?
Yeah.
And what can you do about that?
Start having a conversation. Like if something pings you to be like, I need to talk to these people, then just start with a conversation. Because unless you start with a conversation, you're always going to be trying to figure it out yourself. And we know that trying to figure things out yourself is really just digging that hole deeper. And
Right.
then it becomes so deep that you end up in care that you don't really want to be involved in. And so, start with a conversation, really take a moment and say, okay, what kind of thing am I willing to explore, and give myself permission to see if there's another way that's better than the way I've been doing it. And really just open that.
Yeah.
Open that possibility.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I didn't realize it at the time, but in earlier years of my life, I didn't realize the impact that mentors and teachers had in my life. It was just part of my world. As a lifetime musician, you always have a teacher, especially in the classical and orchestral world. Like, you always have somebody that you're working with and studying with. It's just kind of a thing until a certain point in your career. But for many years, you always have that, and it's something that you always go back to. And they have that ability to listen to you're playing objectively, and to see what could be optimized for you, where you might be sabotaging yourself, whether it be in the mindset level in your career, or certainly in the actual playing of the instrument, the mechanics of it, and the musical expression of it. All these little nuances that they get to take their experience and really serve you with. And I just didn't realize how dependent I had, not necessarily dependent, but how big a role that had played in my life, and continues to play in my life, certainly through our relationship, and also in other ways as well. So that value of mentorship, I can speak only for myself and say that some of my resistance around that has always been, well, if I didn't do it myself, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that, Sheevaun.
Yeah, so we've been taught that we have to have the right answers in school, we have to get the good grades, and it is all up to us. And we actually forget that the teacher at the front of the room is really there to guide us. But the way we have interpreted it is that they're the foe, and we have to handle it ourselves. And it's a sad thing because we're better as a group. We're better when we collaborate. We're better when we play together. And it doesn't mean that you don't do your own inner work. It really does mean that there's that mentorship really gets you there faster. Oh, there's this amazing story. I love this story. So Michelle Kwan was going for her gold medal at the Olympics. And it was she was in the last bit of, it was going to be her last skate, before it was decided whether she was going to get the gold or not. And the night before, she was interviewed by Katie Couric, and she had fired her coach.
Oh.
Yeah. And Katie Couric said, "Why did you do that?" And Michelle Kwan said, "Because I needed to prove to everyone that I could do it all by myself." And the fact of the matter is, the next day when she went and skated, she skated against a Russian girl and another girl. And the Russian girl, got rah-rahed and helped by her coach, and you could see them locking eyes. And she went out there and skated like this hard routine that has never been matched since then. And then the second girl went and skated, and she had already, they showed her and her coach together, and then they showed Michelle Kwan. And Michelle Kwan won the bronze. She didn't win the gold, and she was supposed to win the gold based upon all of the things she'd done in her career and everything she'd done up to that point, and she fired her coach the night before.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing?
It really is. I didn't know that story at all. Wow, that's incredible. Well, that's an expensive lesson.
No kidding. She's never ever going to get the gold medal, right? So many people do that, and even somebody who has been coached along the way, they get that need to be right, that I got to do it by myself and prove to the world that I did it by myself. And actually, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, doing what you're here to do and having the right guides along the way to help you stay on the rails, take the next step, and get there faster. Holy smokes, right? Get there faster.
Yeah. And it brings us back to that. Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Have somebody in your life who is really, just have a conversation about what you can do to move yourself forward. Have a conversation about where you might be getting stuck, that you don't even realize that you're getting stuck.
Yeah.
And have a conversation to find your path, to really help you find your path. So you can do that at when you go to iloveenergymedicine.com. You'll find a link for that, and all you have to do is click on it, and there's a little form, and you fill it out, and you will have a conversation that will be exactly that. Getting really true and clear about what is your urgency, what is it that you really want and need to accomplish right now, and those little hidden and sneaky places where you are either holding back or sabotaging yourself in some way, or just don't even realize that you're tripping yourself up, and then making a plan to move forward for you in your life that's really congruent with you. So iloveenergymedicine.com. Sheevaun, any parting words on this one?
Oh, that's a big topic. We could go on forever, but right now, namaste, and I can't wait to see you inside. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.